Until I was embraced by a warm hug, I remained in a daze, unable to comprehend what was happening. Hadn't I passed away? Didn't I perish on that scorching afternoon, in the stifling cold storage of the restaurant? How was it that I was back to the time when my parents were forcing me to hand over my hard-earned holiday wages to support my brother's education? Could it be that I had been given a second chance at life? And in the year of my college entrance exams? I looked up and met a pair of eager eyes, a familiar face, but now with the appearance of a young boy. The man before me was my husband from my previous life, Nathan.
Nathan? How?
Before I could voice my confusion, a strong force pulled me away. I looked down to see her nails digging into my arm, leaving several red marks. Mary pulled me behind her, warily eyeing Nathan.
Who are you, young man? Don't you have any manners? Do you know this is trespassing?
Then, she grabbed my wrist and started berating me.
Lily, you're 17, and you're already getting involved in a relationship? Do you think this is fair to your father and me, who work hard to provide for you and your education?
Wait a minute, if I remember correctly, I earned my own tuition fees. The money you have, apart from spending it on Tom, hasn't been shared with me at all.
Caught off guard by my retort, especially in front of a stranger, her face turned red. Mary let go of my hand and shouted to John.
She's out of control! Come and deal with your daughter!
John, sitting nearby, frowned.
Lily, how can you speak like that? This is your mother. As for our suggestion, you should think it over. It's for your own good. Your grades are average, and since you can't get into a top university, there's no point in wasting money and time on further studies. You'd be better off working to help support the family. You're already set in your ways, but your brother is just starting high school. There's a saying, the future is uncertain, and he could be the dark horse. We believe in Tom, he still has room to improve.
Yes, Tom certainly has room to improve. From last place to second last, that's an improvement, isn't it?
Even though I hadn't fully grasped the situation, I couldn't help but argue back. If I had been given a second chance, why should I endure the same grievances and waste my time again? John, enraged, raised his hand to strike me. Suddenly, a strong force pulled me away, and I realized it was Nathan. His eyes were filled with unyielding anger as he dragged me out the door. The wind lifted my hair, which brushed against his shoulder. I looked at that strand of hair, then up at him, and my eyes were filled with his image. Behind us, I could hear Mary's furious shout.
If you leave now, don't come back!
John, sitting nearby, frowned deeply, his voice tinged with frustration.
Lily, how can you speak like that? This is your mother. As for our suggestion, you should think it over. It's for your own good. Your grades are average, and since you can't get into a top university, there's no point in wasting money and time on further studies. You'd be better off working to help support the family. You're already set in your ways, but your brother is just starting high school. There's a saying, the future is uncertain, and he could be the dark horse. We believe in Tom, he still has room to improve.
I rolled my eyes and interrupted him, my voice dripping with sarcasm.
Yes, Tom certainly has room to improve. From last place to second last, that's an improvement, isn't it?
Even though I hadn't fully grasped the situation, I couldn't help but argue back. If I had been given a second chance, why should I endure the same grievances and waste my time again? John, enraged, raised his hand to strike me. Suddenly, a strong force pulled me away, and I realized it was Nathan. His eyes were filled with unyielding anger as he dragged me out the door.
If you leave now, don't come back!
I had a falling out with my family and couldn't go back. At this moment, Nathan and I were cramped inside an ATM booth, checking the balance from my part-time jobs over the past months.
Wow, Lily, you did great! You earned so much in just one break.
I looked at the balance on the card, 20,000 yuan. This wasn't just from one break. During my senior year, with tight schedules and heavy tasks, I gave up on revising and squeezed time from every possible moment, working multiple jobs day and night, barely earning this much. But this money cut off my last chance to continue my studies.
I see. The closest place to school costs 1,000 yuan a month. After paying tuition, I'll have 17,000 left, enough to rent until the college entrance exams. By then, I'll still have over 10,000 left, which can be my living expenses for those months.
In my previous life, I loved saving money. After Nathan and I passed away, our parents took all our savings and spent it on my brother. In the end, all our hard work was for someone else's benefit.
I agree. But I have to go back home to live.
Who said you had to rent with me? The college entrance exams are important.
It was already late, and finding a place would have to wait until tomorrow. The day after tomorrow was Monday. If everything went smoothly, it would be just in time. Nathan and I huddled in the small ATM booth, sitting shoulder to shoulder with our legs bent, leaning against the machine, chatting idly.
Do you think I can catch up in the 5 months left until the college entrance exams?
Why not? You're so talented. As long as you study hard, you can definitely catch up. But
in my previous life, I didn't even get to attend the last semester of senior year before being expelled from school. I didn't know the basic revision patterns or frameworks, let alone the 3 mock exams. For me, it was as difficult as climbing a ladder to the sky. Moreover, I hadn't looked at the high school material for years, and my brain probably couldn't keep up anymore. My shoulder felt heavy as Nathan, under the pretense of stretching, draped his arm over it.
Lily, don't worry. I'll help you. Let's get into a good university together, okay?
Under the light from the ATM, I saw his eyes shining brightly, filled with me. My heart warmed.
all right, I'll do my best. It's a bit heavy.
Nathan quickly removed his arm, chuckled, and fell silent. Sleepiness and fatigue overcame me, and I leaned back, not knowing when I had fallen asleep. Nathan couldn't help but place my head on his shoulder. We leaned against each other, keeping warm on this chilly night. With a sudden jolt, I felt like I was falling from a great height. My body tensed, and the next moment, a pair of large hands supported my head. I groggily opened my eyes. The falling sensation was because I had slipped off his shoulder, and Nathan, still seemingly asleep, had instinctively caught my head. Blushing, I pulled away slightly and gently nudged him.
Nathan?
What's wrong?
I glanced at the clock on the machine. It was already past 7. It wouldn't be long before the staff would come to move us along.
Let's go. We need to find a place to rent, get some things sorted out. Tomorrow is the start of the new school year.
In the early morning sunlight, I placed my hand in his palm.
Okay.
Everything went smoothly. We found a small place for rent near the school. Though it was tiny, it was enough for just me. We called the landlord to arrange a viewing, and soon met her. She was a kind lady, and after hearing Nathan explain my situation, she immediately agreed to reduce the rent by 200 yuan. So, I moved in, used some money from my card to buy essential items, and prepared to start my new life here. Nathan dropped me off at my new place and then went back to his own home. Before leaving, He said he had a surprise for me and told me to wait for it tomorrow. Lying in bed, I couldn't sleep. Everything I had experienced in the past few days felt like a dream. The alarm clock rang. I was already dressed, my school uniform neatly arranged, and I headed to school. It was only about a kilometer away, so it took just 10 minutes to reach the school gate. Suppressing my excitement, I looked at the school, feeling my feet grow heavy, unable to move forward. A strong push from behind and a cheerful voice called out.
Lily! You're here! You liar!
I looked up to see a bright girl, my good friend from high school, Emily. Emily was the acknowledged leader of our class, especially in terms of physical prowess. She had been learning martial arts and taekwondo since she was young, and anyone who tried to bully me would be knocked down by her. In my previous life, I became withdrawn and self-conscious after being expelled in my senior year, hiding in a small restaurant and avoiding people, which led to drifting apart from Emily. She was a proud girl and didn't understand the truth, thinking I had changed and was ignoring her, so she decided to ignore me too. We lost contact just like that. Seeing her smiling face, my eyes welled up, and I hugged her neck, unable to hold back my sobs.
What's wrong? Don't cry. I won't scold you anymore. It's all your fault. Last semester, you told me you might not come back this term and would drop out. It's all your fault.
I will never be expelled again. I will study hard and go to college.
What happened? Did someone take over your body during the break?
Get out of here.
All right, this is the Lily I know.
In the first class, the teacher walked in and wrote on the top left corner of the blackboard.
115 days until the college entrance exam.
Pushing his glasses up, he addressed the class.
Class, there are only 2 weeks left until the 100-day oath-taking ceremony. Today we welcome a new student to our class. Let's give a warm welcome.
Sparse applause followed, and everyone craned their necks, eager to see who this daring fool was.
Transferring schools at this time? Are they crazy?
I had a bad feeling. Could it be Nathan? Sure enough, the next moment, Nathan walked into our class. The teacher assigned him a seat diagonally behind me. As he passed by, he whispered,
Good luck.
I gave a barely noticeable nod. Could he have transferred because of me? After all, he was a top student at the neighboring high school. How could their teachers let him go so easily? Shaking my head, I tried to dismiss these baseless thoughts. The homeroom teacher enthusiastically outlined the review plan and methods, systematically arranging our overall review strategy. I was busy taking notes, trying to break down every piece of content and incorporate it into my own study plan. In every subsequent class, with every familiar face I saw again, I felt a surge of motivation to study. At the end of the day, Emily poked my back.
Lily, what's up with you today? It's like you've turned into a different person. Since when do you love studying so much?
The college entrance exam is coming up. Didn't I tell you? I'm aiming for Tsinghua University.
Before she could react, a female voice from the front chimed in.
Olivia, isn't it daytime? Why do I hear someone talking in their sleep? You didn't even say you wanted to get into Tsinghua, and now someone ranked 20th in the class dares to boast about it.
I glanced over. The speaker was a girl with a low ponytail, her face full of disdain as she looked at me. And the one sitting there, pretending not to hear, still scribbling away, was Olivia, the top student in our class in my previous life. Later, I heard she didn't do well in the college entrance exam and only got into an average university. she had several emotional breakdowns afterward. Emily rolled her eyes.
Since when can any dog talk? One person doesn't want to play with you, so you grovel in front of others, standing up for them, and they don't even acknowledge you. Another one pretends not to hear, staying aloof, blaming others for everything. Perfect match, really perfect.
I couldn't help but laugh out loud. Long time no see, Emily was still so sharp-tongued. The low ponytail girl, feeling humiliated, pointed at Emily.
You.
What? Want to fight?
Olivia, sitting there, shook her head and muttered.
Fool. You stand up for her, and you're not a dog?
Emily's face changed, and she was about to stand up. I knocked on the desk.
Hey, did we provoke you?
She put down her pen, flipped her paper, and said calmly.
No, I just can't stand your arrogance. Ranked 20th, and you dare to talk big.
Let's wait and see.
The air grew tense. Nathan stood up from his seat and pulled me up.
Let's go, school's over.
I nodded and followed him out, not missing the flash of malice in Olivia's eyes. I thought catching up with the senior year's curriculum would be difficult, but after a month of studying, I had recalled most of the content from my previous life. Even more surprisingly, I found that I remembered some of the college entrance exam questions from my past life. This gave me a sense of confidence. Soon after the start of the new term, we had the 100 Days Pledge Rally, and following that, our first major mock exam. This meant there were only 2 exams left before the college entrance exam. At the rally, Nathan, representing the senior year students, gave a speech on stage.
We have the spirit to strive under pressure, and we have the belief to seize the crown. Let us face the college entrance exam with passion and determination.
Watching the radiant young man on stage, I felt an indescribable sense of pride. These days, Nathan had been particularly attentive to me, and everyone understood his feelings for me. Even the homeroom teacher called me over several times, urging me to focus on my studies during this crucial period and not get caught up in romantic entanglements.
This is a critical time, Lily. Focus on your studies and don't let anything distract you.
I understand, I'll focus.
As Nathan stepped down from the stage, he passed by me and gave a subtle wink.
We'll see.
I knew she was referring to the upcoming mock exam. Sure enough, within a couple of days, the teacher announced that the first mock exam would be held the next day and told us to prepare.
The first mock exam is just the initial simulation for the senior year. We must comply with the higher-ups' arrangements. There will be a second and third mock exam. By the time the college entrance exam comes around, you won't be as nervous.
Despite his words, the students were still anxious.
What do we do? I haven't memorized all the math formulas yet.
Yeah, I haven't even learned the Redcliffe Ode by heart.
Quiet!
I focused on reviewing the formulas in my hand, writing down the basic knowledge frameworks in my notebook. Only by understanding these fundamentals could I truly integrate and apply them. During that period, I studied until midnight almost every day, and Nathan stayed with me until midnight as well. Several times, we were chased away by the school's patrolling security guards. The night before the exam, as we walked out of the school gate, he looked at me.
Lily, good luck tomorrow.
You too.
The first exam was Chinese. As soon as I got the paper, I relaxed. The questions weren't difficult.
The questions aren't too hard.
I flipped to the back to check the essay topic, can and should. My mind started to construct the essay, and my pen flew across the answer sheet. Soon, the Chinese exam was over. During the break, Emily sat down with a troubled look on her face.
What am I going to do? I messed up the first subject.
Olivia was at her desk, intensely reviewing potential topics for the last few math problems. Nathan and I sat together, and he asked with concern.
How did it go?
Not great. There were many questions I couldn't answer, but I did my best. Besides, the math exam coming up is the real challenge.
Nathan clicked his tongue, his eyes burning with determination.
If you don't do well in math this time, I'll tutor you. How about that?
I was naturally willing to spend time with Nathan, especially if I could learn something. Since the start of the school year, I had buried myself in a sea of problems, often neglecting Nathan. Yet, he never gave up. When I was working on problems, he was too. When I took breaks, he would find time to chat with me. In short, he was always there. A girl with a low ponytail stood next to Olivia, speaking just loud enough for us to hear.
You can't make a silk purse out of a sow's ear.
Nathan frowned and looked over, but I tugged at his hand and shook my head. Soon, the bell rang, signaling the start of the math exam. The homeroom teacher from the next class came into Proctor and quickly handed out the papers. I glanced over the paper and immediately started working. I began with the multiple-choice questions, moving from easy to difficult. As for the final problems, I took one look and gave up. Looking up, I saw Olivia furiously working on the last problem. Perhaps that's the level of a top student. As the time to hand in the papers approached, I reviewed my answers to ensure there were no mistakes before finally relaxing. After handing in the paper, it was time for the lunch break. As everyone dispersed, the girl with the low ponytail deliberately bumped into me, knocking my notebook off the desk. The notebook sprawled open on the floor. Olivia glanced down at it and sneered.
The first mock exam in senior year is over, and you're still writing basic knowledge frameworks. Lily, is this your dream of getting into Tsinghua University?
I picked up the notebook without saying a word, but Nathan spoke coldly.
I don't see anything wrong with writing basic knowledge frameworks. It helps reinforce memory. After all, any difficult problem can be broken down into basic ones. Please correct your statement and don't mock others' study methods.
Olivia's face turned red and then white. She grabbed the girl with the low ponytail and hurried away. Emily watched them flee and covered her mouth, laughing.
That was great, Nathan.
John, sitting nearby, frowned deeply.
Lily, how can you speak like that? This is your mother. As for our suggestion, you should think it over. It's for your own good. Your grades are average, and since you can't get into a top university, there's no point in wasting money and time on further studies. You'd be better off working to help support the family. You're already set in your ways, but your brother is just starting high school. There's a saying, the future is uncertain, and he could be the dark horse. We believe in Tom, he still has room to improve.
Yes, Tom certainly has room to improve. From last place to second last, that's an improvement, isn't it?
Even though I hadn't fully grasped the situation, I couldn't help but argue back. If I had been given a second chance, why should I endure the same grievances and waste my time again? John, enraged, raised his hand to strike me. Suddenly, a strong force pulled me away, and I realized it was Nathan. His eyes were filled with unyielding anger as he dragged me out the door. The wind lifted my hair, which brushed against his shoulder. I looked at that strand of hair, then up at him, and my eyes were filled with his image. Behind us, I could hear Mary's furious shout.
If you leave now, don't come back!
All the exams were over, and today was the day the results were announced. Olivia sat there with a composed demeanor, as if everything was under her control. The homeroom teacher walked in with a joyful expression.
I didn't expect our class to do so well this time. The top student in the grade is actually from our class, and there's another student who deserves special recognition. That student is Lily.
I looked up, knowing that I hadn't done particularly well this time, as there were many things I hadn't fully memorized. The homeroom teacher met my gaze, nodding with an encouraging smile.
Lily has made a remarkable leap from being 20th in the class to ranking 60th in the grade in this mock exam.
The class erupted in chatter, everyone discussing my results.
No way. Lily really surprised us. These mock exam questions were tough, and she scored so high.
Wow, was she pretending to be weak all along?
Did you hear? She's dating Nathan. Maybe he gave her some extra tutoring?
Come on, if you have the skills, get him to tutor you too.
All right, quiet down. Regardless of the rumors, Lily's progress is evident to all. Everyone should learn from her and strive for excellent results in the college entrance exams. But I also need to address an issue, particularly for Olivia. During exams, it's crucial to solidify your basics and not just focus on the final big questions, neglecting the smaller ones. Olivia, look at your math paper. You got one of the multiple choice questions wrong. Don't you know that mastering the basics is key to success?
Under everyone's gaze, Olivia's face turned red and then pale.
All right, let's announce our top student, Nathan. It's said that Lily improved with Nathan's help. I hope you both continue to excel together.
Olivia's face turned ashen. She couldn't believe she wasn't the top student anymore. Nathan, on the other hand, looked at me with a joyful expression, as if my praise made him happier than being the top student himself. He was happy because I was happy, joyful because I was joyful. I met Nathan's gaze, filled with tender affection. Although he might not want to marry me at this moment, I had already decided on him. In both this life and the previous one, he was the person I loved the most. Then, I turned around and started correcting mistakes on the test papers with Nathan. During the break, I felt uncomfortable and rushed to the restroom as soon as class ended. I hadn't been there long when I heard a familiar voice.
Mom, let me explain.
Was that Olivia? Through the gap in the stall door, I saw her. Her nose and eyes were red, as if she had been crying, and the person on the other end of the phone was shouting incessantly.
I got second place, but...
You little brat, I provide for you, send you to school, and you always get first place. Why couldn't you do it this time? Tell me, are you distracted? The college entrance exams are coming up. If you don't get into a top university, your living expenses? You can starve.
Olivia stared blankly at her phone, sobbing. Listening to this, I felt a pang of discomfort. Once upon a time, my parents treated me the same way. Speaking of them, it seemed like I hadn't heard from them in a long time. Why was that? After squatting for a while, my legs felt numb. I gathered myself and stepped out of the stall. Olivia was still there, bent over washing her face.
Lily? What did you hear?
I shook my head and walked to the sink to wash my hands. Amidst the noisy break, her voice was particularly clear.
I won't let you and Nathan continue to be happy. The first place can only be mine.
Olivia, beating us and getting first place doesn't matter. You need to overcome yourself. What's important is the college entrance exam.
She suddenly leaned close to me, water droplets from her face falling onto my uniform, her voice like a cold, venomous snake whispering in my ear.
Lily, don't be too happy. You'll fall hard sooner or later.
Whatever makes you happy.
Olivia's punch felt like it hit cotton, and she choked for a moment before turning and leaving. After that conflict, she indeed didn't bother us anymore, nor did she arrange for her minions to trouble us. And so, the days passed one by one. During the day, we were all buried in a sea of questions, and at night, Nathan would come to my small home to tutor me. We used countless pens and notebooks, and I collected the empty pen tubes, amassing a large pile that gave me a sense of accomplishment. From initially being confused by every question to later handling them with ease, no one knew the effort I put in. Not even Nathan could fully understand. He was a genius, I was not. I had to rely on my own hard work. Together with Emily, we helped her rise from the 30s and 40s in class to the top 10 in the third mock exam. Seeing her smile made me happier than doing well myself. Finally, June arrived. The day before the college entrance exam, the teacher kept reminding us to be careful and to bring everything we needed: exam admission ticket, ID card. Under the desk, my hands were clenched into fists, and my body trembled with excitement. This was the moment of truth. The classroom was filled with the sorrow of parting. Everyone was saying their goodbyes. Emily nudged me, saying she didn't want to go to college and not see me again. We had to get into the same city.
We have to get into the same city.
I nodded on the surface, but my mind was still trying to memorize the things I hadn't yet learned. Even though, those things weren't sticking in my head anymore.
Lily.
I looked up, my eyes full of confusion and bewilderment.
Relax for tomorrow's exam. It's just a simple test. I believe in you. No, I believe in us. We can do it.
Staring blankly at Nathan, I felt a sense of calm wash over me. Mimicking his deep breath, I steadied my emotions.
Nathan.
You can do it. Think of those sleepless nights, those early mornings. We studied day and night for this moment.
His words stirred me, and I couldn't help but feel my eyes water.
Wow, you two are such an inspiring couple.
I snapped back to reality, blushing, and playfully pushed her.
What are you talking about?
Exactly, how about now? Not nervous anymore? Honestly, seeing you tremble like that scared us both.
I nodded. I was just too excited about taking the college entrance exam for the first time.
From a few rows ahead, Olivia turned and suddenly smiled at me.
Lily, good luck.
Her smile carried a hint of malice and schadenfreude. At this critical moment, would she try to trip me up? Instinctively, I retorted.
Good luck to you too.
Unexpectedly, when I looked away, I saw Nathan staring at Olivia, his eyes deep and unreadable. The exam started at 9 the next day. Nathan came to find me early, bringing breakfast. We nestled in our small home, eating and reviewing together. After finishing, we headed to the exam center. Looking at our admission tickets, we were lucky to be assigned to the same exam center, though he was on the 3rd floor and I was on the 1st. We walked together towards the center. The morning weather was nice, and a gentle walk helped calm our nerves. Over the past few months, we had naturally confirmed our relationship. Who brought it up first? I couldn't remember. Everything just fell into place perfectly. A crowd of students and parents had already gathered near the exam center. Many parents wore cheongsams, believing it would bring good luck.
Didn't wear a cheongsam?
If I were a girl, I definitely would have. But I did wear purple underwear.
A strange blush spread across his face.
What?
It's for good luck.
I couldn't help but laugh, and my tension melted away. Scanning the crowd, my smile faded the next second. There, walking straight towards me, were my parents with my brother, who was on break. Pushing through the crowd, they reached me before I could say anything. Mary suddenly knelt down. I was stunned. How did they know I was here? I hadn't told them my exam center. Before I could react, Mary grabbed my pant leg, crying loudly.
Daughter, how could you be so heartless, deceived by this boy, and not come home for 3 or 4 months? Your father and I have been so worried about you.
The crowd quickly gathered around, pointing and whispering. The pressure made me start to sweat. What was she doing? Was she trying to ruin my exam? Didn't she know how important this was to me?
Yes, sister, I'll quit school and let you go to college, okay? Come back. Mom and Dad are sick with worry.
The surrounding parents started to talk.
What's wrong with this girl? She's so ungrateful at her age.
Yeah, did she run away with her boyfriend? Kids these days.
But causing a scene at the exam center isn't right.
Hearing the crowd's comments, they cried even harder. Many parents and media pulled out their devices to record, capturing my panicked, pale face.
Fortunately, before they could continue, some police officers approached and dispersed them.
Parents of the candidates, please leave. Personal matters should be dealt with after the exam. Do not make loud noises that could disrupt the exam environment.
After repeated persuasion from the police, they finally got up from the ground, supporting each other.
Ethan, who had been silent beside me, spoke up, stopping them and successfully drawing the cameras towards himself.
Wait.
With a pale face, I looked up at him. Nathan rummaged through his bag and found a signed and fingerprinted agreement. He bravely stepped forward, facing the media cameras, and displayed the title of the agreement, clearing his throat.
Everyone, look at this agreement signed by this family.
I frowned. What agreement?
Ethan began to explain clearly and methodically. In front of everyone, he detailed how they had favored boys over girls, mistreated me, prevented me from taking the college entrance exam, and even after severing ties with me, came to disrupt my exam day to affect my mental state.
Everyone was stunned, including me. They wanted to consume every part of me. How could they possibly sever ties with me? Most importantly, I had never told Nathan from this era about these things. How did he know?
Watching him under the sunlight, with reddened eyes and passionately speaking up for me, I couldn't help but tear up. Public opinion began to shift.
What kind of parents are these? It seems we misunderstood this girl earlier. It's incredible how much she's endured at such a young age.
Oh my, this is like a modern-day villain. How could they treat their daughter like this? Was she adopted?
Shame on them as parents.
A wave of condemnation arose, and seeing that they couldn't gain any advantage, my parents and brother left in disgrace.
Candidates, please enter the exam hall.
With a soft call, the drama in front of the exam hall ended. Everyone turned their attention back to their own children, constantly reminding them to stay calm and perform well.
Ethan looked down at me with serious eyes.
Lily, you've waited too long for this goal. You absolutely must, give it your all.
With tears in my eyes, I nodded.
No matter who he was, at this moment, he was the one who saved me and fulfilled me. Taking a deep breath, I entered the exam hall. At the door, I parted ways with Nathan, watching him go upstairs. The moment I sat down in the exam hall and opened the test paper, I felt an unexpected calm. I thought this incident might distract me, but instead, it strengthened my resolve. I must get into college, leave this place, and make something of myself. I picked up my pen. Answered the questions. Submitted the paper. The math exam in the afternoon and the comprehensive science exam the next day went well. At the very least, I was confident that the questions I had answered were about 80 to 90% correct. Nathan had broken down the thought process and solutions for these problems for me. Many complex calculations were simplified, and the advanced knowledge he had taught me outside the syllabus was applied flexibly to the questions. Not to mention, some of the questions I had encountered in my previous life, and over the past few months, I had memorized everything thoroughly. Those so-called formulas and answers were just numbers to me. Overall, I was very satisfied with these 2 papers. I could even say I performed exceptionally well. In the afternoon, it was the English exam. When I got the paper and saw the dense text, I was momentarily stunned. After hearing the listening test prompt, I quickly adjusted my mindset and answered the questions on the paper, then transferred them to the answer sheet. English is somewhat unpredictable, so I couldn't guarantee anything. But what I was sure of was that these 4 answer sheets not only marked the end of my high school life, but also made up for the regrets of my past life.
How did it go?
I don't know.
Nathan, worried that I was upset, tried to cheer me up, walking slowly as he escorted me home.
It's okay, don't think about it. The exams are over.
Nathan, what if I didn't do well?
He was taken aback, looking into my eyes, and suddenly pulled me into his arms.
I'll be with you, no matter what you do, no matter when. I'll always be with you. In this life and the next, I won't let you be alone again.
At that moment, I finally realized that Nathan had also been given a second chance at life and had chosen to stay by my side, silently supporting me, willing to sacrifice just to fulfill my dreams.
Honey.
What did you say?
I said, honey. Thank you.
You.
Why are you so surprised? Aren't you the same?
Suddenly, he lifted me by the waist and spun me around in the air.
That's great! You're really alive!
I wrapped my arms around his neck, my laughter ringing like silver bells in the air. Looking at the boy shining under the sunlight, I tightened my arms around him. It felt so good that something I never dared to dream of was actually happening to me. More than half a month passed quickly, and soon it was the day to check our scores. We gathered at Emily's house, staring at the computer. Emily was the first to enter her exam number, and the circle on the screen kept spinning. Emily squeezed my hand.
What if? Lily, what if I did poorly?
I shook my head, and we both closed our eyes, too scared to look at the screen. We left the task to Nathan.
It's out.
We peeked through our fingers at each other, and Emily, her voice trembling, asked,
How is it?
Nathan clicked his tongue.
It's average.
Emily's shoulders slumped, and her hands slowly lowered from her face. Then he added,
Only 650. Emily, your review was just average, huh?
Emily's eyes widened as she repeatedly stared at the numbers on the screen.
600! 650!
I was shocked too. Considering she barely scored over 500 in the mock exams, she had now become a so-called high scorer. Emily punched Nathan lightly.
You tricked me.
Tears uncontrollably streamed down her face.
Lily, thank you all. If it weren't for you guys pushing me to study, I might have.
Why thank me? This is clearly the result of your own hard work.
Emily steadied herself and made room for us to check our scores. She quickly called her family to share the good news. The results were out. They were good. I scored 700, and Nathan scored 720. Looking at the scores, I could hardly believe these were my own results. Nathan, with tears in his eyes, looked at the screen.
Lily, we did it!
Yes, we did it. The stars do not disappoint those who travel.
Yes, we can finally go to Tsinghua.
John, sitting nearby, frowned deeply.
Lily, how can you speak like that? This is your mother. As for our suggestion, you should think it over. It's for your own good. Your grades are average, and since you can't get into a top university, there's no point in wasting money and time on further studies. You'd be better off working to help support the family. You're already set in your ways, but your brother is just starting high school. There's a saying, the future is uncertain, and he could be the dark horse. We believe in Tom, he still has room to improve.
Yes, Tom certainly has room to improve. From last place to second last, that's an improvement, isn't it?
Although I hadn't fully grasped the situation, I couldn't help but argue back. If I had been given a second chance, why should I endure the same grievances and waste my time again? John, enraged, raised his hand to strike me. Suddenly, a strong force pulled me away, and I realized it was Nathan. His eyes were filled with unyielding anger as he dragged me out the door.
If you leave now, don't come back!
The wind lifted my hair, which brushed against Nathan's shoulder. I looked at that strand of hair, then up at him, and my eyes were filled with his image.